Last week, we went through the Beatitudes, and one of the things that jumped out at me was that it specifically said Jesus opened his mouth. So I've been digging into that, and what I found was absolutely incredible. I was really shocked. So I started off with the word open, and I didn't find much there. In the Greek, it means anoigo, and it literally means to open. It was fairly simple, fairly straightforward. But then when I went to the word mouth, what I found was really, really deep. And I'm kind of nervous about presenting this because there's so much depth to this. But the word there is stoma. And it means to come from the mouth. It can also be the edge, the face, or the mouth. Now, in the Thayer's definition, it can also mean to the edge of a sword. And immediately, I'm thinking of the armor of God. So then as I go further down and I see all the places where this word stoma is used, sure enough, it is in that passage about the armor of God. So in Ephesians 6, starting in verse 17, it says, "And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God." Now, the interesting thing here is that word sword is not the word stoma. That's not where that word is used. But the sword of the Spirit is the word of God. Keep in mind in John 1, it says, "The word became flesh and walked among us." Jesus is the word. Jesus is sitting down on that sermon, on that mount. He's opening his mouth to bring forth his word, which means the edge of the sword. Verse 18, "Praying at all times in the Spirit with prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints." All of us are called to pray for others. All of us are called to pray in the Spirit. Verse 19, "And also for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel." That word mouth right there is this word stoma. So right after this entire description of the armor of God, Paul uses a word that can mean the edge of the sword. When we open our mouth and we proclaim the mystery of the gospel, we are using that sword, and we do not want to overlook that. That is very significant. "For which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak." So we're being told to declare it boldly. Now, there's another place where Jesus opens his mouth, and that is in Revelation 19:15. And it says, "And from his mouth came a sharp sword with which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God the Almighty." So from his mouth comes that sword. From his mouth is coming the word. And that's exactly the same word. It is that word stoma. It's part of the body. It's thoughts of a man's soul or verbal utterance of his mouth, and it can also mean the edge of the sword. So don't overlook the fact that when you open your mouth to tell someone about Jesus Christ, you are bringing forth, not only bringing forth the word of God, but you are using that sword, and you are causing damage to the enemy. Think of the damage that Jesus did on that Sermon on the Mount when he talked about what it means to have that spiritual maturity, what it means to recognize your need for Jesus. There's power in that. And it's not weakness that we need Jesus, it's power. Have a wonderful day. God bless, and keep walking the walk.